Mic is all crooked. Looks good. I can't believe Air's not going to be here for this one. You're going to have to be very, very sassy. She usually is she's quite sassy. All right, let's do this. So I think when it comes to good faith or bad faith, one thing that I don't think is necessarily a good example of faith would be to say, I'm going to walk off this building and have faith that God will make me fly. There's a big difference between having faith and having common sense. Another example of what I wouldn't necessarily call bad faith, but just not a very good example of the faith that I believe the Bible is talking about, would be to say, I believe that God is going to do this in my life, so I'm going to wait around for him to do it. I've found that in my life, a big part of having faith is finding the willingness and finding the courage to step out and take part in the process of bringing whatever it is you're believing in, involving yourself in the work and in the process of bringing that to fruition or making that happen. I think a true faith doesn't just say, I believe in God, God, do it, but it says, God, I believe that you are powerful enough to bring whatever it is about, and I'm willing also to partner with you to do the work, to offer myself up as a worker in order to bring that about. That, I think, is a better example of what true active faith, faith in action, looks like. Oh, yeah. Hi, Miss Erin. She's here.
What kind of pizza you want?
Good pizza. We're getting pizza for the Cubs game.
Bye, guys. I hope you all learned lots from me. I'll be back later. I'll be back in the next episode. Hope you had fun. This is the Sweeper signing out.
Thanks, Erin. Will you close the door? And I love you.
Love you too.
All right. So I'm really glad that someone asked this question because it is something that I think a lot of Christians struggle with. Because when you become a Christian or when you grow up in Christian culture, there just seems to be all this pressure once you hit a certain age, like 19, 20, till like you're 25 and beyond. There's all this pressure to like, have you found your mate yet? Have you found your wife yet? Have you found your husband yet? And there's this sort of stigma, I think, where without really knowing it, I think a lot of Christians maybe even sort of like look down on single people. And that is not good, I don't think, at all. For me, my advice to single people, and this comes from my years as being single and the seasons that I spent being single, the best advice I got, which I'll pass on to you, would be to focus on yourself. And what I mean by that is focusing on developing into the type of person that you would one day want to marry. We just asked Air this question, and she said something really good. She said, you have to become a full person before you can become someone's other half. And I think that's really good. I think that's really, really smart. If you can focus on developing a strong relationship with God and becoming the type of person you would want to marry, then when God does bring that person into your life, you're going to be ready. But if you just spend all your time focusing on trying to find somebody, anybody, or the right person, and focus no time on preparing yourself for that relationship, then when the right person comes along, you might not be ready for it. So the best advice I can give is focus on yourself. And when I say focus on yourself, I mean focus on developing that relationship with God. That would be the best thing I could think of as far as how to best use this season of singleness to prepare yourself for the marriage that you will one day have, if that's what God's will is for your life. So once again, I think this is a really important question. And because it's so important and because it's such a sensitive subject, I'm going to actually pass this question on to somebody else. I'm going to refer you to the best sermon that I have ever heard on grief. It is called Grieving with Hope by a pastor named Bill Hybels, and I linked it below. I'll give you a little bit of the Cliff Notes version of some of the things that he says, though. One of the things that he focuses on is there is no set timetable for grieving. A lot of people will try and tell you it's been too long, or you haven't taken enough time, or this or that. There's no set timetable when it comes to grieving a tragedy, whether it's like a lost loved one or an accident or whatever it might be. There's no set timetable. Some people need a short amount of time, other people need years, and other people need some time, a break, and then more time. There's no set timetable. And the other thing is don't try and do it alone. And when I say don't try and do it alone, I don't mean surround yourself with as many people as possible. Because once again, I think each of us need to be cared for and surrounded in different ways when we're dealing with something like grief. Some people need the one person that they're closest to, and they need to cling to that person, and they don't really want anyone else talking to them. Other people need to be surrounded by a huge community of people that's going to support them. It really depends on what you need, but one thing is certain is that we're not meant to go through life, and specifically grief, alone. I think that's one thing that the Bible makes very clear, that we were made for community. So those are the first two things that I'll say. I don't want to ruin the rest of the sermon because Bill Hybels says it way better than I could. So if you're interested in that and you're going through something, or if you know someone who's going through something, click the link below. It will change you, I promise. Next. That's the symbol for next. So this is once again a really good question. We've had some great questions so far. Like some rock solid questions. I'm really pumped about these.
Like a rock.
I hope that I'm getting better at answering them as the fanimers are getting better at asking them. I don't know if that's true, but
I think so.
I hope so. So dealing with doubt versus clinging to faith. I think the first thing to talk about, and I've talked about this before on this channel, but I want to make it very clear, I believe that doubts are okay. In fact, I don't think it's possible to have a true, sincere faith without doubt in the equation. It is human to have doubts, and I think that God is okay with us having doubts so long as we bring those doubts to Him. And so long as we don't allow those doubts to sort of overcome our underlying faith. Those doubts in the moment, we can't allow those to overcome the underlying faith that is a foundation for our life. In other words, the present struggles that we are facing do not in any way discredit what God has promised in our past. So part of what I believe true faith really is, especially faith in the midst of doubt, is believing what God has promised in His Word, regardless of what our present circumstances look like. And that just comes down to a choice. When you're staring in the face of difficult circumstances and it seems like God's not there, or all these doubts start to rush in, it is a literal choice where you say to yourself, I am going to believe what God has said over these current circumstances that are trying to get me to doubt. And that's all for. Thank you so much for watching another Ask Anima. You guys have gotten really good at asking questions, and I'm super pumped to continue to film more of these. If you have any questions that you want us to answer on future episodes, please comment below, #AskAnima, and we'll try and fit them in. Tonight is a very important night here in Chicago. It is Game 3 of the NLDS. The Cubs are playing the Cardinals. Go Cubs. And we're on tour this month. So make sure you check us out on the vlog. You can catch up on everything we've been doing on tour. You can also click the link below to see if we're coming to a city near you. Last but not least, subscribe to the channel. Last but not least, it's time to dance. And